Also the strongest storm to ever make landfall.
Yeah,
Ever, anywhere. There's a lot of records, unfortunately, that Melissa has not only broken, but gotten, let's say, into the top 3. It's tied for the top 3 lowest pressure, tied for the top 2 strongest hurricane on record. Of course, it is the strongest storm to ever make landfall and the strongest storm, of course, to impact Jamaica, as it's been since the 1980s, since there was a Category 4 hurricane. And not only that, but because of where Melissa made landfall on the western side of the island, it also allowed for the eastern side of the island to be mostly on what we call the dirty side of the storm. So worse winds, worse storm surge, and severe weather risk. And not only that, because there's this tiny little sliver there on the western side of Jamaica, it really did not spend that much time with the eye wall over land, which means now that it's reemerged back into the open ocean, it hasn't necessarily regained strength. It's still a powerful Category 4 hurricane right now, but it still has a small window of time to regain strength before it makes landfall tonight as a secondary landfall as a Category 4 in eastern Cuba. And then eventually tomorrow afternoon at this time, we'll likely be looking at a major hurricane, still a Category 3, making landfall somewhere in the Bahamas, if not getting very close to some of those Bahamian islands. So this is a huge, huge deal, not just for these tourism areas, but many of these islands, of course, can get cut off very easily from bigger islands or other places, of course. Sometimes there's nowhere for the residents to go because a lot of these areas are poverty stricken or just on an island. Think about if you live along the coast in the Carolinas and there was a Category 4, there's lots of places inland you can go. Now, that's not to say it's easy for a lot of people, but there are places. Whereas if you're in Jamaica and you can't get out via boat or via airplane, then you are stuck on the island during a powerful Category 5 hurricane making landfall. By the end of the week, it'll be heading toward Bermuda and then actually could clip eastern parts there of maritime Canada by the end of the week, and eventually probably is heading toward the UK as a post-tropical cyclone. So the movement of staying out to sea is one that we've seen a lot so far this season because of the steering currents, and thankfully it's not going to come to us here in the Carolinas, but it's just very, very unfortunate. And at this point, all we can do is really help them post-storm, and there's really nothing we can do in the near term. So please make sure if you have friends or family in not just Jamaica, but in these areas now that are going to be impacted, they're aware of what's happening, and if they can't get out, they can take those necessary precautions. Again, eastern Cuba and then the Bahamas. Right now, it looks like the storm would stay just west of Turks and Caicos. Widespread cloud cover locally does remain. We'll see areas of light rain returning tomorrow by the morning hours, but for now, we're getting a nice little break. So far today, about 1/4 inch of rain here in the Charlotte area. Yesterday, we had about 1 inch and change, so about 1.5 inches over the last 2 days. Not too shabby here in the Piedmont, as we desperately need still more rain to come. How much more? About 1/2 inch to 1 inch possible, at least with this event, as we'll see areas of light rain again returning tomorrow morning. And then it's actually Wednesday night and into early Thursday that we'll probably see some of the heaviest rain we've seen so far. So there's that break now. You can see areas of light rain returning tomorrow morning. Notice the heavier rain by the afternoon stays west of 77. This is why I'm expecting the mountains to get just a little bit more over the next 24 hours, but then heavier rain more widespread by really this time tomorrow, moving through the Piedmont, and then we're clearing out nicely by Thursday. Now, of course, it's a big week, not just because of all the weather we just talked about, but because Halloween is on Friday. Not just on a Friday, but then the first 2 days of the new month are on Saturday and Sunday. Halloween weekend, it's going to be chilly. Expect temperatures about 5 to 10 degrees below average, but thankfully we're not dealing with any rain. At night, you'll probably need some leggings, an extra long sleeve shirt, jacket for those Halloween costumes, but probably not during the day with the direct sunshine. Here's your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast after Halloween, first weekend of November, which also means we're falling back.